Hi there. Today we're playing some more Blitz. Hopefully I can try to get to 2350 today. So we're starting with black. Yeah, I figured maybe today I'll play 3 games in this episode, so a little bit more Blitz. Okay, so I have to pin this knight. This is the most common move in this situation where the knight attacks the queen and you can just respond with this pin. It's pretty convenient. There is a check here, but then it looks like I win the bishop, but there's queen e2 pinning back. So, okay, is c7 hanging? Possibly. I think I'm gonna give this pawn to my opponent if they want it, just so I can castle quickly, bring the rook over, and maybe start putting pressure on white's d4 pawn. Let's see what my opponent decides to play. I do have to be a bit careful about this pin, but for now it's still pinned, so that's not... Okay, now it's not pinned, so I should definitely take. Now c7 probably is hanging. There's knight e4, which is interesting. I don't really want to retreat my queen, so I think I'm going to try knight e4. So just attacking c3 here, so if my opponent takes on c7, c3 hangs. I'm a little bit concerned about my position. Like, there could be an attack here in the future, I feel like. It's my biggest concern in this position. But yeah, let's see what my opponent decides to do. Probably c4 is reasonable. I have to bring my queen back now, defends this. I still think knight c3 is a threat, even though it doesn't win the pawn, because I would love to take this bishop. Yeah, bishop d3 is what I thought my opponent would probably play. Now, yeah, if I go back, then I'm getting pinned. Not really what I want, so I think I'm going to go for f5. This is, of course, a very double-edged move because I'm opening my king, but maybe knight b4 here. Okay, takes. So the knight has to move here because the bishop is also hanging. But my opponent can move the knight and the bishop will be protected, so that doesn't lose a piece. But my knight on b4 now is kind of misplaced, so I have to figure out what to do with that. So where do I want to retreat this knight? I think knight to a6 makes some sense, going for c5. Also a bit concerned about where this light square bishop is going to go, but okay, I think knight c5 is actually pretty good here though. So this is a very nice square for my knight. Also just prevents my opponent's knight from going to e6. Okay, so b6 runs into knight c6, so not that. I think my opponent wants to try to go here. So I'm going to just play a6, maybe not a good move, but just as long as nothing can go to b5, then there's no threat to knight b5 putting attack here. There's no rook b5 getting my knight out. And I think my knight is pretty solid here on that square, so okay. So what to do with my light square bishop now? That's the question. Bishop f5. I like bishop f5 because, okay, so I have to go back. Maybe knight will come to d3. Yeah, I think knight to d3 here. Although no, then there's knight e6. So I have to move the queen first, queen d7, and then knight d3 maybe. Let's trade. Oh, I shouldn't have traded rooks, but I think it should be okay. This was not a good decision. I think I may have made a big mistake, but yeah, because this knight is not defended, so there might be some tricks. Okay, so one goes there. Queen f7. Let's see here. So if I go queen f7, I think it's okay. Knight e6. Yeah, I can. Yeah, this is not good. I guess I have to try this. There's a check and takes on c7, unfortunately, but I don't think I really had a choice. Okay, so I can try to defend this position. Down a pawn, down on time. Takes bishop f5. I think my opponent overlooked that. I'm gonna try to put my bishop on d7. Play a bit faster here. King e6. What's happening here? I think my opponent blundered. I can take next. Take. Take this. Check, bring my king up. I have a check here. Bring my knight back. Okay, check. I'm gonna just go for the... Okay. Oh, I forgot about that. Okay. Okay, it's a time scramble. Okay, somehow I won that. I don't know what was going on there, but yeah, obviously a lot of missed chances here. I could obviously just take and then actually maybe that's not so. I think king d3 here was much a little trade, and this doesn't work. So it's still very complicated, of course, with no time, but maybe this intermediate move first, threatening to queen, and then my opponent would have to do something about that, and then I take the knight. And here I think this is probably better, but yeah, of course in a time scramble it's always tricky. But yeah, somehow I got the win there, so I guess let's go on to the next game. That kind of worked out well. Okay, next game, so I'm playing in National Master with white this time. Okay, so Garo Khan, I'll play this line. I'll take d4. Probably h3. Yeah, h3 here, just trying to force the trade. And unpinning, castles. I'll put the bishop on f4. Usually opponents just play this. And I'll go knight e5. So my opponent cannot take with a knight, of course. Yeah, so here I cannot take with the queen because there would be knight takes on d4. So I'll take with the knight. Maybe not ideal because I'm kind of allowing the knight jumping over here, but should still be fine. I'm going to trade these knights and then maybe go just c3. Pretty solid setup here. f3, forcing the knight to move. If knight g3, I can just move the rook to the open file anyways, so that's fine. Okay. I really like this knight d3 actually, because now there's some weak squares here on e5 and c5 for black. And if I can put a knight on one of these, maybe knight c5. Okay, b3 I think is reasonable. Blocking the rook. Also prevents knight c4, so that's an added bonus. If knight f5, okay, queen. That is a good move. So I would play queen d2, but then I'm pinned. So I'll probably play queen c2 here. And then put the knight on c5. And I think should be doing okay. I'm not sure how I could like start improving my pieces from there, but yeah, should be fine. Knight e5, I'm not sure about because that probably would run into like a move like c5, for example. Not right away, of course, because there would be a fork, but my opponent also could just play f6 here, and then there would be no knight e5. So let's see what my opponent does. I like my position though. Okay, knight b5. So I could just ignore that for now and just put a knight on c5 because there's a fork threat. So I'm threatening knight d7. So if any of these pieces take here on c3, I can just go knight d7. Queen takes, I can trade first and then go knight d7. So for now, c3 is not under attack. My opponent has to respond to this first. And now I can bring my rook here. Probably I should have gone with the other rook because a2 is defended, but I think most of the play in this game will be on the queen side anyways, so it doesn't really hurt to have the rook here. I'll go queen to d3. Just basically potentially preparing this c4 break. Okay, e5 is a good move. I kind of forgot about that. So, e5, there is this move threatening knight d7. Not sure if it's good though. I'll go a4, just forcing this knight out. Probably, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really want to go b4 because then the knight can go to over here. So, maybe king h1. I like king h1. This just makes sure this is not check. So now I can maybe just take to trade the knights. e4 is defended. My opponent probably still could go e4 and then take on b3 at the end of that. Yeah. I think I have no choice but to take. And here, knight f2 is a big threat, so I probably should take this. And have to take this. And I think my opponent may have missed that c6 is hanging, so is there a better move though? If I take on c6, rook c8, I'll do it anyways. And there's queen f3 though, actually, so defending on c3. So I'm up a pawn, up some time. Should be doing well. As long as I just move a little bit quickly here and should be good. Queen d3 next maybe. Oh, okay, my opponent wants to do that. So, that's okay. I'll force the queen out first. And okay, do it again. I'm not going to take a draw, of course. But I don't really see how to, okay, whatever. I'll just force this again and do this, and then just play c4. I don't want to draw here because that would be, okay, I'm hanging some pawns, but hopefully I can win this game anyways, since I'm up on time. Oh yeah, I can take this now. Just bring the queen back. Okay, now I just start pushing the pawn. Yeah, it was too hard for my opponent to play with no time there. Basically, it's if white can just trade the queens here. This is obviously just a draw probably, but if I can just trade the queens, then I can just start pre-moving, right? And since my opponent has like a couple seconds, he was trying to avoid the queen trade, because otherwise if I can just trade the queens, then there's no risk, right? So okay, so that's 2 games. I'm at 2354 now. I have to play another game though, so let's see if I can maintain this rating. So yeah, let's go. Game 3 out of 3. Okay, I get white again, so I'm gonna play the same system. Okay, this is Fildor defense. I'll take the queen. After knight c6 is actually very similar to the first game we played, where you pin the knight when it attacks the queen. c4. Okay, so I'm gonna go knight c3. My queen's defended here, so that's not a worry. Okay, king d7. That's interesting. I think I'm gonna just, I don't have to take the bishop right away. The bishop cannot go anywhere because he played king d7, so that's, I can always just take that later. f3 is solid, defending my center. So my opponent wants to play something like this. I think I'm gonna castle. If knight f6, I could maybe throw in a move like knight to f5. I think is very good, because then that opens. I like queenside castle, by the way, because it just lines up the rook already with my opponent's king, so it's a bonus basically. So I could go c5 here, which is, I think, pretty good. My opponent maybe can take here. Okay, now I definitely take. So my opponent's left with a weak backwards pawn. Knight f5. I don't really like that my opponent can take here, but there would be an intermediate move there, I realize. So, okay, so here, bishop f4 should be really good, because now this cannot really be defended easily. And so if bishop e5, then I can just trade, take the rook and take on, I can take here, then probably take this rook and then take on g7, I think. So, okay, things are going well. Up a pawn. I have to move a bit faster though, so I'm going to try to do that. I think knight to h5, because I can always put the knight back to g3, or just play should I play g4? I'm just going to go knight to g3. Probably I forgot about this, but okay, so I think I'm just going to go rook d2, defends that, and then knight f1, going over here. I think I'm just going to try to just trade some pieces here, and yeah. So I'm going to be up a pawn here in the endgame, so that should be perfectly fine for me. I have to take with the pawn here, of course. Okay, I thought I had this though. So again, I'm just trying to trade pieces. I'm up a pawn, so I think that should be reasonable. Okay, I'll take. The only thing I realize is like maybe this is not so easy to keep, but let's see. How do I bring the king in? Okay, I'll go king d3. I think I'm just going to put the king on e3. Put the king on e3, and then maybe. Okay, so f4. Just go f4. Not sure if this is correct. I'll go e5. So my opponent's king is cut off here, so can never really enter that way. b4. I kind of have a lot of moves here to just wait, so I'm gonna just play some waiting moves. Now threaten this. King b6. Okay, so how do I win? Rook e2. I think I have to go put the king back on f4 and just try to push this pawn. Because as long as my pawn is on g2, I cannot really do anything with that. Okay, now I'll do this. So now my opponent's rook is stuck there because I'm going to try to go over here. I have to play faster. Now I'm going to try to be more aggressive here, I think, if I want to try to win. I'm going to attack this pawn. Okay, I think I'm making some progress. If this is played, I can take both of these pawns, because c6 is hanging. Check. Now I'm going to bring the rook back here and start pushing my a pawn. Okay, a6. I can take here. It's actually a similar situation to a few days ago. I played a Blitz game where I had these two pawns, and very, very difficult for black to stop here. Okay, so I'm threatening a7, so my opponent probably has to go back. I can hide the king over here, yeah. Okay, I'm really happy with that game actually. So somewhere over here, it was kind of hard to win with this rook tied down, but once I was able to kind of go h3 and then put the king here, then my rook is kind of free to move around, because if my opponent ever checks me, I can just take this pawn, right? So like after, even once I bring the rook to c5, my opponent probably should go for this because my king is cut off here, but still not so easy to find these moves. After rook b2, check. I guess this would be a draw, but that probably gave me the best chance, although I did blunder here. But yeah, anyways, and then yeah, once I was able to kind of win this pawn, then with these two connected passed pawns again on the queen side, it's usually cannot be stopped by just the rook. Since the king is cut off, my opponent's king cannot really ever go here, right? So after just rook a1, and the pawn, my opponent probably would have to do something like this, but then just b6, right? King c6, and then I can start just taking everything on the king side. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with these games. So I got to my goal, 2350, and yeah. So yeah, thanks for watching.